In the second video of Lesson 2 in Section 4, we will algebraically solve linear equations of the form x divided by a equals b, where a is not equal to 0, because dividing by 0 is not permitted, and a and b are whole numbers. As you recall once again, to solve, we isolate the variable. We have used the idea that addition and subtraction are opposite or inverse operations. And in the previous video, we also used the idea that multiplication and division are opposite operations. And we will continue to use this idea in this particular video. We now examine linear equations of the form x divided by a equals b, where a is not equal to 0 and a and b are whole numbers. Our first example, solve for x. X divided by 3 equals 9. We have divided by on the left-hand side, and the opposite of division is multiplication. Before we actually go through the workings here, though, I want us to have a close look at this x divided by 3. I want to point out that x divided by 3 can also be written as 1 over 3x, or a third of x. We cannot write it with the x in the denominator. That would be incorrect. But the x can be in your numerator. It can be to the right of your fraction. That's okay. And when we write it as 1/3 x, that would mean 1/3 times x. If I write it as x over 3, we would read it as x divided by 3. Back to our equation. The opposite then for divided by 3 would be multiply by 3. So we're going to take both sides of our equation and we're going to multiply by 3. The right-hand side should not be any issue whatsoever. 9 times 3 is 27. The left-hand side, what I want you to think about here is that the purpose of multiplying both sides by 3, the purpose of doing the opposite operation to dividing by 3, is to isolate the variable. When we multiply 3 times x over 3, or 3 times x divided by 3, that will just leave us with our variable, 1x. Don't need to write in the 1, but it's understood to be there. If we have a glance to the right again, just to probably explain a little bit more how this works. If I use this particular form of 1/3 x, if you have 3 times a third, which means a third of 3, well, 1/3 of 3 is 1. You could also look at it like this. If you have 3 times x over 3, this is the same thing as 3 times x divided by 3. And we know that 3 divided by 3 is just 1. So we're left with 1x, and we just call that x. Bottom line is, whatever way you want to look at it, when you multiply, in this case, 3 times x over 3, you're just left with x, or 1x. So our solution here, x equals 27. Let's do a verification. X divided by 3, circle 9. In place of x, we substitute 27, and 27 divided by 3 is 9. Our solution checks out. Next example, solve for v. V divided by 7 equals 6. We are dividing by 7. The opposite to that is multiplying by 7. We multiply both sides of our equation by 7. And as we saw in the previous example, if I go 7 times v divided by 7, that will just leave me with 1v. And 6 times 7, 42. Verification, I substitute 42 in place of v, and 42 divided by 7 is 6. 6 equals 6, v equals 42, correct solution. In our next example, our variable is on the right-hand side. No problem as before. We treat this the same way. If you want, you could do the flip-flop. So we get m divided by 4 equals 20. That's okay. I'm going to work with the form that I'm given. I have divided by 4. The opposite to dividing by 4 is multiplying by 4. So I multiply both sides of my equation by 4. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. If I look at the right-hand side first, where my variable is located, and I go 4 times m divided by 4, that just leaves me with 1m. 4 times 20, that will give me 80. M equals 80, or if you want to put the variable on the left, m equals 80. All good. Let's verify. 20, m divided by 4. In place of the m, we have 80. And 80 divided by 4 is indeed 20. Solve for h. The difference in this particular example is that I have simply changed the division symbol. I'm going to rewrite it as h divided by 8 as a fraction. I find it easier that way to manipulate both sides to show what my workings are. And in this example, because I'm dividing by 8, I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by 8. 8 times h divided by 8, that will just leave me with 1h, which is exactly what I want. And 9 times 8 is, multiplication facts here, 72. H equals 72. Quick verification, and I'll go back to the form that we were given. In place of the h, I substitute the 72, and 72 divided by 8 is 9. 9 equals 9, h equals 72, good. And let's conclude this lesson with a word problem. The total cost of a meal, C, it's shared by 4 people, and each person has to pay $18. That does look like a wonderful meal on the side. Our task here, write a linear equation to represent the situation and then solve to find the value of C. So in other words, we have to figure out the total cost of this meal. The total cost has been divided up amongst 4 people. That means C divided by 4. If I take the total cost, share it amongst 4 people, C divided by 4, and we know that each person has to pay $18. So that C divided by 4 must equal 18. We have a linear equation here now that is the same form as those that we've just dealt with. If we have C divided by 4, the opposite to that is multiply by 4. Whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. 4 times C divided by 4 will just leave us with C. And 18 times 4 will give us 72. We can now write our final statement. The total cost of the meal was $72. And now I would like you to proceed to the activities for Lesson 2.